They gave me Vicodin after my knee surgery. They kept prescribing it, so I kept taking it. I didn't know it would be this addictive. I didn't know how far I'd go to get more.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.
Hello, and welcome to Cleveland Honors, a program dedicated to educating you about how our justice system works and the people behind it. In this episode, we will talk with Ohio 8th District Court of Appeals Judge and former Cleveland Municipal Court Judge, Larry A. Jones. Judge Jones, welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Judge. It's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward for our talk this afternoon.
Oh, thank you, and so am I. How's your summer been, by the way?
It's been a good summer, very warm, staying busy. Took a couple weeks of vacation, but I'm working very hard.
Okay. And you're at the Court of Appeals now.
Yes.
Do you miss being over across the street, Cleveland Municipal Court?
Well, truthfully, I miss the people. We had a lot of great people over there, the employees, the staff. But I don't miss the 100 cases a day, and I've served on Cleveland's court for 21 years. So it was time for me to get a promotion and count my blessings. But great court, great people, so I miss the people. But that's about it. I enjoy my job. I have the best job in America.
Court of Appeals judges. A lot of people say they would love to be a Court of Appeals judge. You're a native Clevelander?
Well, really, I was born in the state of Georgia. I was born in a little town called Valdosta, Georgia. And my family moved up here. I was probably maybe 4 or 5 years old. I've been a Clevelander ever since. So I was part of the during the 50s and 60s was the great migration from the South where, a lot of African Americans moved north with the hope of improving themselves in employment. And my dad brought us to Cleveland. So wasn't born in Cleveland, but I'm a Clevelander now.
Okay, part of the Great Migration. Have you had a chance to read the book about the Great Migration? I can't think of the name of the book. It'll come to me in a minute. Now, you went to high school here in Cleveland?
Went to high school. I went to the best high school in the city of Cleveland, Glenville Tar Brothers. I was very fortunate. And, during those days, we had some good teachers, and you have a very nurturing environment. So I went to Glenville High School, Patrick Henry Junior High, and then I went away to college, the College of Worcester. And I majored in political science, graduated from college, and I came back to Cleveland and attended law school, Case Western Reserve Law School.
Okay. Why did you choose Case Western?
Well, I was coming back to Cleveland. It was a good school, and quite frankly, I got accepted. Law school was very competitive, and I applied to several law schools, and there was one of the first law schools that accepted me. So, I told them yes, worked out the financial deals, and with the case.
Okay, what was your undergrad major?
Political science. I always kind of be very active in politics, and I think I was like the president of our student government when I was in high school and college, and during my law school days, I was like co-chair of Black Student Law Student Association.
Okay.
So I always am involved in our community, and wherever I'm at, I think a person should be involved.
Good. Now, before you got on the Cleveland Municipal Court, what were you doing in Cleveland?
Well, I graduated from law school, and my first job was with the county prosecutor's office. I was assistant county prosecutor. And I did that for probably about 4 years. I ran for Cleveland City Council.
Let me ask, who was the county prosecutor when you got hired?
John T. Corrigan.
Okay, so you worked for John T. Corrigan.
I worked with John T. Corrigan.
Okay.
And it was a great experience because as a county prosecutor, You showed up for work, right out of law school, they gave you a file, they pointed you in the direction of the courtroom, and you went in the courtroom and you tried cases. And I think during my legal career, it was very beneficial for me because I got to try cases, all type of cases, from simple assaults to murder cases. But it gave me a sense of confidence in the courtroom, and no one really could intimidate you. Well, we got to go to trial. Well, if we got to go to trial, let's call 12 people up and go to trial.
Do you remember how many jury trials you had as a county prosecutor?
Probably within those 4 years, I would say maybe 30 to 40 jury trials. Where some people in a whole lifetime don't have that many jury trials.
Yeah, so you got some good experience.
In fact, I had more jury trials as assistant county prosecutor than I did as a Cleveland Municipal Court judge.
Okay, that's interesting statistic. All right, so you worked for the county for how many years?
For 4 years.
Okay, and were you involved in the community during those 4 years?
Yes, I was. I lived in Glenville. At that time, it was Ward 27. So you used to have different what they call area councils back in the day. So I was involved in area council, involved in my church, which at the time was Everlasting Baptist Church on the corner of St. Clair and 80 Road. And that's where my roots at. And I always been involved. I encourage young folks to be involved in the community, so involved. And I knew at some point in time I would probably enter the political process.
Okay. Well, let me ask, what made you go to law school?
Well, I remember we had some good teachers at Glenville. I remember one teacher, Dennis Didell. He taught us history and black history, and he was an attorney. And so having this feeling that if somebody's gonna make decisions about your life, you should be part of that process. And I felt, well, if people are making decisions about my life, then I want to be part of that process. And as I looked around, law school was a good avenue. But a little side joke, when I first went to college, I wanted to be a doctor. I was going to be a doctor and make a whole bunch of money. And I never forget, it was like spring quarter of my freshman year. I'm in my room studying chemistry, organic chemistry. And I look out the dorm window and, my friends out there throwing frisbees and footballs and whatever. So I think I dropped chemistry the next week and turned to political science.
So much for the medical profession.
But, again, I was very fortunate. Judge Solomon Oliver, who's the chief judge in our district, federal judge, was a teacher there. Judge Oliver was a student at College of Worcester.
Okay.
He graduated, went to law school, and he came back. He taught at the college probably about maybe 5 or 6 years. And I had the opportunity to take several classes from him, and he used what we call the casebook method, same method they use in law school. And with his help and support, I became very interested in law. And in fact, he was very instrumental in helping me get into law school.
Good, good. Are you still good friends with Judge Oliver?
Absolutely. He's one of my mentors, friends, and I love him dearly.
Okay. Well, good. Tell him I said hi when you see him again. Now, you're working at the county prosecutor's office. You're involved in stuff in the neighborhood. You ran for city council at some point in time. Right.
I ran the first time I lost about 300 votes. I ran against a good person by the name of Caesar Moss. In fact, my parents was involved in politics, and they helped put Caesar into the office. But I always knew that at some point I wanted to run for office. And again, my philosophy is I can do just as good, if not better, than anybody else. But I lost about 300 votes. And then Caesar, he turned around, he resigned. And then next 2 years, I got elected to Ward 27.
Okay, that was Collinwood?
Collinwood.
Okay.
And eventually became Ward 10.
Okay.
They reduced the size of council.
And it's been reduced again.
Yes.
Okay. How did you enjoy city council?
Well, it was a great experience. And we wouldn't be sitting here today, I wouldn't be talking to you as a judge, but for that experience. It got me into the ground level of politics. It gave me a good sense of what's happening in our community. And it really gave me a good feeling of working for people and being a public servant. You know, if you're a Cleveland City Council person, you know, you get up probably 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, your telephone start calling till you go to bed. I mean, you're a former councilman, so you know that.
I know.
But it gives you a good sense of, you know, what our government should be about. And at the same time, it gave me a chance to meet other colleagues, other councilmen from East Side or West Side. And it was very instrumental when I decided to run for judge that my colleagues supported me.
Good, good. Who was on council with you at that time?
Well, you know, George Forbes was there. He was the president of council. You know, I learned a great deal from George, and when I first got elected, I didn't know anything, so I became part of this coup to get rid of George, and it didn't go anywhere. But, you know, I've learned a lot from George, and I just watched the way George used to conduct hearings. And when somebody came to the city council, when a committee meeting, George always gave you a sense that you're getting a fair shot and he listened to you. And those are one of the things I took away as a judge. You know, when somebody comes in front of me, whether I decide that they're going to be guilty or innocent or even on court appeals, I give them my full attention, and so they can feel that, hey, I got a fair shot at it. The judge heard me.
Okay, okay. And I imagine there were a whole lot of lessons from city council
no question. You know, I was there with Lonnie Burton. You know, I could just go down the list. Former Mayor Michael White, you know, Tyrone Bowden, Earl Turner,
yep.
Rikakis, Polensik, you know.
Okay.
So we had fun. It was a good time in my life. We had fun, and you felt that you was making a difference in our community.
Now, you were on city council, you ran for judge while you were a member of city council.
Yes.
Did you learn anything from that experience that you took to the bench with you afterwards? Well,
you know, I think just a sense of being a public servant and being good to folks. If you can help somebody out, try to help them out. And that was one approach I took to Cleveland Municipal Court. Because basically Cleveland Municipal Court, it's a people court. You know, you hear traffic cases, misdemeanors, and people who appear in front of you, you have a chance to hopefully shape their lives and help them. More so on a municipal level than a common pleas level. So a lot of times, once you get to the common pleas level, it's, you know, the die is cast. It's tough to change people. So that's why I basically brought from Cleveland City Council the whole issue of, if you're down there, try to do some good and help folks in their lives.
Okay, okay. Well, let's talk about Cleveland Municipal Court. Some people call it the People's Court, and 100 cases a day some days. There were some programs instituted while you were a judge. Could you tell us about, for example, drug court? How did drug court get started? Okay.
Well, before I answer that, you know, one thing I'm very proud of my experience at Cleveland Municipal Court. I had the opportunity to be the presiding administrative judge for probably about 14 of the 21 years I was there. And one of the things we try to do at our court is be responsive to the community. So in 1998, the late Stephanie Tubbs Jones had received a federal grant to start a county-wide drug court program. But the judges in the common pleas court thought it was a liberal social program, and they voted to not accept the fund. So at that point in time, Stephanie Tubbs Jones, along with our court, and myself, decided, well, can we bring the funds to Cleveland Court? And we was able to transfer the funds from the common pleas court to our court, and we started a drug court program. And when we first started, no one really knew what it was about. Everybody thought it was some social program. So we had to go out in the community. I mean, myself, my staff, we would go out to the community, talk to folks, and just let them know what drug court is about. And basically, it's a treatment program. And, you know, I like to say we laid the groundwork. Now today we have a county-wide drug court program. The municipalities have drug court program, and drug treatment works. You know, so hopefully over the last 20 years we have seen an education process of our community about drugs and treatment of drugs. And I used to always like to point out, it calls between $25,000 and $30,000 to house a person in prison versus cost maybe $2,000 to $3,000 to give a person drug treatment for a year. So you can look at those numbers, and we can make a difference in that area.
Okay. So drug court got started. The county judges voted it down. Did the county judges ever get drug court started with them?
Well, I think probably before I left Cleveland Municipal Court in 2008. The next year, they started countywide drug court program. You know, and that's one of the things that as a judge, I think we need to be more proactive. And a lot of times we have a mentality as judges to, lock them up and throw the keys away. But when it comes to drugs, that really don't solve the problem. If you lock someone up and there's no type of intervention or treatment, they'll come out, in many cases, worse addict than they went to prison. So, I mean, hopefully we have kind of turned that corner. And it's kind of interesting, our country now finally see that, wait a minute, especially with the opium epidemic, people are seeing, well, I don't want my grandson, I don't want my daughter to go to jail because of they, taking these pills. So hopefully we can start being a more educated community and really place more emphasis and priority on drug treatment.
Oh, I agree that treatment's essential. I had a buddy get out of jail recently who I had known since junior high school, and I saw him, and I asked him if he had gotten treatment while he was in jail for 7 years, and he said no, there was no treatment whatsoever. So I asked him if he was going to leave it alone, and he said yes, but less than 2 months later, he had died of an overdose. He not getting treatment while being incarcerated, just like you said, less people out, and there's still junkies. It
needs to be focused upon, and we used to talk about the military industrial complex. Now we got a prison industrial complex. We build more prisons than any other country in the world. We send our folks to prison, and it's very interesting. State of Ohio, you used to go to prison, and you could apply yourself, you could come out with an associate's degree, you come out with a BA, and sometimes you come out with a master's degree. They got rid of all that, and it doesn't make any sense. So we basically warehouse people and think when they get out, they're going to change their lives around, and that's not the case. So again, that's my role, and I think the role of the judiciary, try to make some common sense of what's going on there, and pass the words along to the legislators, because they really have the power.
In your capacity as a Court of Appeals judge, do you get a chance to lobby the state legislatures about certain things going on in the court system?
Not really. A lot of times we try to do that through our opinions. They call dicta. We might put a little dicta in our opinion that, something needs to be done about things, or a state legislator needs to think about changing the laws or something like that.
Okay. Well, glad to hear you're doing that. Glad to hear you doing that. All right, well, there's some other programs that got started while you were a judge in Cleveland Municipal Court. We call them specialty docket programs. You want to talk about some of those?
Yeah, and again, I used to tell my colleagues, if you have a program you think is going to be beneficial, bring it forth and we go with it. We're very known for our domestic violence special docket. Judge Ryan Adrian, who retired last year, is a renowned expert in the whole area of domestic violence, and he started domestic violence docket, and it's still going on. We had a mental health docket. Unfortunately, back in the late 70s and early 80s, they closed all the mental health facilities. So as a result, the jails and the courts become the new mental health facilities. So we developed a mental health docket, and I believe it's still going. Still going. And another problem we used to have is people driving without a license, or driving license on suspension. So I believe it was Judge Gallagher came to us and said, let's do something to help people drive. Because we have a lot of folks who are gainfully employed and they don't have a license. So I think the TIP program was a traffic intervention.
Traffic intervention program. TIP.
And again, it started to help people work the system so they could get a valid driver's license and wouldn't get caught up in the maze. And it really amazed me, our Bureau of Motor Vehicles, with these reinstatement fees. It's just totally ridiculous. And we had some folks who would come in front of us, maybe had $4,000 or $5,000 in reinstatement fees. There was no way in the world that person was able to get their license back. But from my understanding, now they have kind of changed that, and they work out some type of payment plans where people can get their license.
It's rare to hear a judge publicly criticize the Bureau of Motor Vehicles for the way they put the reinstatement fees together. And at a judges meeting a couple of years ago, we had a strong conversation with some people from the Bureau of Motor Vehicles about that very fact, and it's starting to change. People can go now and get on the payment plan, $50 a month, get driving privileges, pay off whatever they can pay off. The state legislature changed the law so people can file bankruptcy and include that in the bankruptcy. Okay. When you were judged, they couldn't do that.
Not at all. Well, that's very good to know, and hopefully people realize that, because we have a lot of people out there who still don't have license and they be dodging the police. So if there's a program available, they should really avail themselves to take care of that situation.
There have been a couple of tragic accidents where somebody got killed. The driver didn't have a driver's license, so it's always tragic. So we want the state to help people get their license, but the people have a responsibility to maintain insurance, for example. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons those licenses get taken away, when people don't have insurance, physical responsibility insurance.
Another program we started, we used to have town hall meetings where we actually take the judges out into the neighborhood along with the clerk of court, so that people can meet the judges. And I used to say, and people don't realize how important the role of a judge is. A judge can decide when you come to the courthouse, whether or not you're going to leave the courthouse. Can decide whether or not your property rights. They decide in many cases where you're going to live and die. And a lot of times we vote for judges, we have no idea who the judges are, no idea what type of policies there are. So we started this program. We actually took the judges out in the different neighborhoods throughout the city of Cleveland. So we actually meet the judges, tell them about various programs. And from my understanding, the clerks is still kind of doing something called in the neighborhood.
In the neighborhood.
Go out to the community. I think that's very important, because judges are very important. And you used an example before about the drug court program, where the county judges back in 1998 voted against the drug court program. And there has to be some accountability, and they have to be in tune to the community. And I firmly believe that the day of law and order, lock them up, throw the key, it's a thing of the past. Should there be some people in jail? Absolutely. I mean, some folks out there should be under the jail, but it shouldn't drive our system. I mean, you should have a more compassionate system where if it's non-violent offenders, it's not necessary they go in prison. Because what happens, and we talked about it earlier, that if you go to prison, normally it means that you didn't finish your high school education. Number two, you're not employed. And once you get out, you have 3 strikes against you. And we say you go to jail and you pay your debt to society, but it doesn't happen that way. So we have a lot of work to do in the criminal justice system, but I still think it's the best system that we have going.
Well, and hopefully it will get better with regard to rehabilitation efforts, and also the programs to help people get their education while they're in jail or while they're on probation. Tell me about how Get on Track got started and your involvement with it.
Well, I think it was one of the most important programs that we started at the court. I think it was Judge Groves, along with yourself, came to us, and we highlighted the fact about the lack of education and the folks who we see come in front of us. Most of the time they're not employed, and the other third part was the drug and alcohol. So you guys came up with a program where really focused upon the education component. A person will enter a program, had to get a GED to get out the program, But again, it focused on the whole component of education. Without education, you cannot be gainfully employed. Without education, you cannot start seeing the effects of drugs and alcohol in your life. And I thought it was an outstanding program, and by my understanding, it's still going forward today at the court.
I put somebody on probation today, put them on, get on track, told them they had to get their GED. If they didn't get their GED in so much time, they could bring their toothbrush back when they came to see me. So they weren't happy about that, but they need the education. Yeah. Education is critical.
Yeah. And I think my days as a Cleveland Municipal Court, I can remember there's a direct correlation with individuals who not have education and the process of being involved in the criminal justice system. And I think it still stands today.
They go hand in hand. Yeah. Now, let me ask you, what do you think are some of the most challenging issues the court is looking at today from both your perspective as a municipal court judge and an appeals court judge?
Okay. Well, I guess I would like to maybe turn that around a little bit. You know, I'm hoping in the years to come that judges will become more progressive and proactive and be more in tune to what's happening in our communities, in our neighborhoods. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about the drug court program. We talked a little bit about rehab. And now we have a lot of reentry courts. And that was unheard of, 10 years ago. And basically what reentry court does is try to help prepare a person once he or she gets out of prison to come back in our mainstream. So, you know, I think if we have a responsibility, if we incarcerate folks when they get out of our prisons and our penal institutions, to reintegrate them into our community. And other than that, I think judges, we have to be at the forefront. You know, we are a very important co-equal branch of the government. So I would like to see judges to really sometime operate outside of the box and say, what can I do as a judge to help our community?
And that's important, operating outside of the box. Well, thank you for being here today.
I
really enjoyed talking
Judge.
To you. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Cleveland Honors. And remember, former Supreme Court Justice William Douglas once said, common sense often makes a good law. So long to everyone.